Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to the podcast. This is the new segment. It's called Coffee on the Couch. And today we're just gonna be talking about commonly asked questions. So basically questions that come through to us day to day, through DMs and things, and we're just gonna put them all together and put them out there for people that may be asking the same questions. So we start off with the first one, and it is, when is the Save the Elephants tea coming back? And the answer is, it's not coming back. It might come back maybe a few years down the track, but at this point we're not looking at restocking it. So initially we weren't going to restock it at all, but we did one more special order just because we had so many people ask for it. But now we've sold maybe all up, so I think we sold 120 the first time, and then 60 the second time, and that's 180, and that is all the Save the Elephants teas that have ever been made. And so we sort of wanted to bring a little different aspect to it, where, you know, like close over time, and it came to me through the vintage idea, where if you listen to my last podcast with Jackson Thomas, we talked about he talked about nostalgia and how the clothes had a story, and that's what people are buying. Because why would people buy an old, 30-year-old shirt second hand for $100 like he sells? But he does, because they sell with a story. People buy for the story. So we wanted to create a story behind it, and we wanted to create a bit of rarity behind it. So it's kind of like there's only 180 of them in the world ever. There's only 180 that have been made. So if you have one, you're one of those 180 people that have one. And maybe 3 years down the track, it might be worth more than it is now, and you could resell it. Who knows? But for now, we just want to keep it for the people that supported us and bought those at the start. We're going to keep that just them having it. And that's sort of no disrespect to everyone else, but it's mainly, I guess, I kind of always say get in early, because this thing's going to go and we're not restocking. I say that, but people don't believe me. And this time it's actually happening. So when are they going to be restocked? They will not be. That's the answer. Maybe down the track, 3 or 4 years. We'll see. Are we restocking? That's the next question. So are we restocking? We always get asked if we're going to restock our clothes, and the answer is no, because what we're trying to do at the moment is, because we're so small, we're such a small company, and we don't have a whole lot of money. We're getting there now, but we didn't have a whole lot of money to start. We couldn't really make a whole bunch of things, because we make it in China. We have to make 100 minimum per item per color. So if you wanted to make this hoodie but in 3 different colors, you would have had to make 100 of each, which is 300 hoodies, which isn't cheap. And so we decided, so we only had enough money to make 1 or 2 items at a time. And then we don't want to be spending once we've sold it all out, spending our time remaking the same thing and selling it again. We wanted to bring new stuff out. That's where we're going at the moment. We're trying to just constantly bring new things out. It sort of comes back to the Save the Elephants idea, where we're not restocking it. We're sort of trying to create a bit of rarity around it as well, where people that bought it, that there's not many of them, and then later down the track we'll probably look at restocking things and things like that. But as of now, no, we're not looking at restocking most of the items we make. We're just going to keep making new things. How to start a clothing brand. So I get this question a lot. Hey, I'm starting a clothing brand. How to start? What do you wish you knew from the start? Things like that. And to be very fair, I am still at the start. It hasn't even been a year. It's been about 7 months. We've been in 7.5 months. So we're very new, but people ask me for advice, which is quite flattering. I don't know enough to give you advice. I could give you my recommendation of what I do and what would do, and up to you if you want to take it or leave it, So my advice or my recommendation would be documenting it from the start, documenting the journey. So we go by 3 laws, and it's entertain, educate, or document the journey. That's basically our 3 when it comes to content, and content's massive. So that would probably be the first thing. Pump out a bunch of content, and then the content has to be entertaining, educating, or documenting what you're doing. So basically, and it could be entertaining and documenting what you're doing. But basically, to put this in perspective, I had a conversation with my auntie today. I told her about because she doesn't have a massive social media presence with her designer company, but she makes a hell of a lot of sales, and it actually blows my mind, because if she had a social media presence, she'd be tripling what she's making, and she's already making amazing money. So I asked her, I told her that pumping out a bunch of content is one of the main things we're trying to do at the moment. And she said, so are you saying that pumping out a bunch of stuff is a good thing, because won't people get sick of you? And it's a very good point. You have to be pumping out stuff that is entertaining, educating, or documenting, or things that aren't necessarily selling them your products. So for example, we maybe only post 1 out of 8 posts on our Instagram or Facebook saying like, we're buy this, like we don't really sell our stuff on our Instagram and stuff. We post more about things that, like to give you an example of entertaining, we post things about The Last Dance, which is the Michael Jordan show that's on at the moment, and that entertains people because people sort of relate to that, and it's not fake shit. Like, I'm into that, so that's why I'm posting about it. I love watching rugby. I still play footy, so I love that, and so I post the timetable of the Super Rugby, updated Super Rugby competition now that's only going to be in New Zealand, and that there's going to be 2 derby comps every weekend, two derby games, and I post about that, and people were entertained by that because they know I'm not just posting it because I need something to post. I'm posting it because I'm interested in it, and I think that they're going to be interested in it too. So entertaining, that's the one. And then educating. What I'm doing in this podcast right now, I'm trying to educate you about things that I've learned, and it may not be a $5,000 business course. This may not be that, but what it is someone that you can relate to, someone that is only 7 months into business, but is telling you everything that he is learning as he's going. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be relatable in the sense that I may not know everything, but I can find out and I can tell you in a way that you can relate to me. So that's where I find my strong point with the educating. I'm trying to be relatable. I'm trying to be able to talk to you in a way that you can understand me. And so that's the educating. And then documenting. So if you've looked at any of our social media, we've vlogged from the start, and basically you can see our processes and everything we do to get our clothes to you, and where we've gone from, like how we're slowly progressing, and it's cool to see that. And in 5 years time, if I always say that if you're not going to do it for other people, the documenting thing, do it for yourself. Because in 5 years time, I want to look back and have a look and be like, yeah, like, wow, this is where I started and this is where I am now. And I can see that because I documented it the whole way. So the other plus side to documenting the journey is people feel a part of it. And in every aspect of life, one of the most powerful things you can do is storytell. And storytelling has always been so powerful. And that's what we're trying to do with our clothing. So we're trying to tell a story. We're trying to show you behind the scenes of what we do, and all our fuck ups and everything, not just the positive side of things. You get to see everything. You get to see when my shipping gets delayed and everyone's waiting on their pre-orders and why. Like, I'm not going to make something up. I'm going to tell you exactly what's happening so you can see that, and you feel a part of that journey because you're there from the start. And people feel a part of it. They feel more inclined to support. That's how it works. So the same thing with educating and entertaining. So if I'm educating you and I'm giving you all my best information and my best knowledge, then you're going to feel more inclined to help support me because I was the guy that helped you out. And same with entertaining. If I'm entertaining you, you feel more inclined to help me because I'm entertaining you, and everyone loves being entertained. That's basically it. That's the 3. So if I was to say how to start a clothing business, I would say don't focus on the clothes as much, focus more on building the brand. And okay, how to start a podcast. So I get this one a lot, how to start a podcast. And one of the first things I say is I send them a link to the podcast that I made about how to start a podcast. One of the things that make me laugh a bit is when people say, I really love your podcast. I listen to them all, just wondering how you started it, and what you do to get it off the ground, because I'm going to start mine. And the first thing I say is, or the first thing I think is, well, no, you haven't listened to my podcast, because one of them is about how to start a podcast. So that's kind of funny, but that's all good. It doesn't really matter. If I were to say how to start one, I would say go to that first. That's how we sort of started. I give you the information on what equipment we have, what software we use, and everything's so simple. Like, we use 2 mics that I bought for $100 each at the music shop. They're not the best brand, but I was told that they're just as good. And they're USB mics, so they plug into my laptop. And I YouTubed how to use GarageBand for podcasting, and how to connect 2 mics onto GarageBand. Everything's on YouTube. Everything that I don't provide to you in my podcast on how to start a podcast, you will find on YouTube for free. And so it basically tells you everything. We use SoundCloud as our provider, and we upload everything onto that, and then it uploads to all our different platforms, and I go into depth more about that on the podcast, things like RSS feeds and things like that. So yeah, that's how we started our podcast. To answer that, go check out our podcast on how to start it. What blanks do I use? So we don't use blanks, and we get this question a lot. And if you don't know what a blank is, blanks are just like, for example, AS Color clothes, where you just print something onto the AS Color top, and we don't use those purely because I always wanted it from the start to be fully customizable, and for me to know definitely that what I'm selling is quality. If I'm selling blanks, then I don't know for sure how it was made. I don't know for sure what the fabric was that was used, and therefore I don't, and the price of them. So the price of them aren't too expensive, and it's very hard to find a good blank provider around. Well, AS Color are quite good, but like everyone does that, and not many people sort of make their stuff from scratch. And there's a very good reason for that, is because it's quite expensive and it's hard. You have to let's take this hoodie for example. So to make this hoodie, most people think, oh, where do you buy your oversized hoodie blanks? They think I just buy the hoodie in a navy and then print this on it. That's not how it works. What I did was I actually sent the neck drop, I sent the neck width, I sent the cuff width, I sent the cuff length, the sleeve length, the shoulder length, the width and the height up to the top of the neck. The hood, that part that goes around the back of the hood, I don't know what it's called, and the hood drop. You measure literally everything. Little details like I put this in front of this so they don't finish the same, they finish one in front of the other. Little things like that is things that I wanted to add onto my own clothes, and those are things that you can't customize when you're using blanks. So I did that, and I also, things like if I want to do big prints on our clothes, that's very expensive to do in New Zealand. If you're going to get big prints with big colors such as the Save the Elephants one, that would have cost me a shit ton. And even the Save the Elephants t-shirt is so much different. It's 260 GSM, which is almost pretty much the thickness of some hoodies, and you don't get that sort of stuff here. For you to make customized clothes like that, it has to be done overseas, and it has to be done from scratch. So what we do is we found our supplier, and they go to the fabric market and they send us fabric swatches, and there's these little books that tell us, this is the 320 GSM this fabric, and then it'll show us all the colors they have in that fabric, and we can feel it and we can see what colors we like, and then we can tell them, I want number 44, that's the color I want to use. And then we send it back to them. They go to the fabric market, they find that fabric for us, and then we send them all our measurements. They make a sample, and this is why samples are so important, because when you make a sample, you get it here, that's when you get to check if what you wanted really is what you thought it was. And so we get the sample made. If it's all go, then we go into production with our big order, and that's how it works. So no, to answer your question, we don't use blanks, but we are looking at providing blanks for people who want to make clothes but can't really afford to make 100 t-shirts or something like that of one color. So we're looking at potentially doing big orders of 200 t-shirts of similar to what our t-shirts are, and then selling them in little bits to small businesses or small starting out clothing businesses who want to use blanks other than AS Color to have something a bit different, and use our blanks. Because some people actually talk to us about wanting to use our blanks because they even want to have our tag inside them, so they can say these are 1 through 8 tees, which is so cool for us. It's pretty flattering to hear someone say that to me. I know personally I don't think like that. I don't want to print my stuff on an AS Color top and send it to people with AS Color tags and be like, yeah, like I print my stuff on AS Color. Like I don't want to do that. I want them to see that it was mine made, if that makes sense. But I find it flattering that people want to do that. So to answer that, no, we don't use blanks. How do I ship my clothes? So if you go onto our vlogs, you'll see we basically document the whole process. And to wrap it up really quickly, the clothes come in, and then we get our orders online on our Shopify. It goes straight across to our courier provider, which is eShip, and then basically we grab whatever they ordered, we put it in these brown paper bags, our shipping bags that we buy, and then we put them in there, we wrap it up. We bought a new label printer, we print out the shipping label, chuck it straight on, then we call our courier. Every day that we have orders, we call the courier in the morning, and depending on where you are, they come and pick it up in that day at a certain time, usually every day when they come past. So for where we are, it's 4:30 in the afternoon. As long as we order before 4 o'clock, they usually pick it up from here at 4:30, no matter how many it is, no matter how many packages you have. So that's how it works for us. That's how we ship our clothes, and we find it really helpful. Who inspires your brand? We're inspired by Supreme. So like we get who are you inspired by with your clothes? Like we're inspired by, like I just said, Supreme or Yeezy and stuff. And we do I like Yeezy a lot. Like I like his clothes, the basic and the different sort of clothes. I really like that. But first thing that comes to my mind when I hear who are you inspired by, I say Gary V, and people usually like, what the hell? Like, who's that? Is that a clothing brand? And I go, nah, he's a successful businessman. And people go, oh, it really doesn't like register with them. Like, why does a guy who owns a clothing business, why is he inspired by a businessman, not a clothing brand? And it's because it's more about the business than it is, and the brand, than it is about the clothes. Like our clothes are nothing special. Like I love our clothes. Like we are different. Like our things are a little bit different than your usual things, and we like putting out the style that we like to wear. But the clothes isn't the be all and end all. I'm not a fashion wizard. I'm not the most creative person in the world when it comes to clothes. Some people are. There are people that make some unbelievable clothes, and just like everything, you can have the best product in the world, but if you can't tell everyone about it, then you're never going to be the most successful. That's just how it is. So I talk about Gary Vee because he talks about kindness and empathy and how to be a good business owner and how to be a good leader and how to be a good person, and all that sort of stuff registers with me really well. And he hasn't really got anything wrong so far that I've seen. He usually gets most things right when it comes to business. So, like one of the main things being pumping out as much content as you can, whatever platform it may be, because the day and age that we are in, it's so social media driven, and it's not always going to be like that. Everyone has an opportunity right now to become a very successful business, anybody, and not many people are taking the advantage of it. So that's what I'm trying to do. I've gotten past that stage where I think, oh, what are people going to think of me? Like if I make a vlog, like are people going to rip me? Are the boys going to rip me up for it? If I make a podcast of videoing myself like I am right now, are the boys going to go like, what's this dude up to? I've got past that stage where I do not give a shit what anyone thinks about me. I'm doing things genuinely, and I'm being myself, and I'm doing what I enjoy, and that's the most important thing to me, and hopefully it leads to success. Where do you get your clothes manufactured? How do you source yours? So we source ours through contacts. Our manufacturer is in China, and like I said, we do the whole sampling situation, and then we do our big order, and then basically the stuff gets sent here to us. There's a few costs that are involved in that. I'll dive a bit deeper into that in another question. And how did you source yours? Like I just said, we got it through contacts. My auntie owns a designer wear company, and she makes her clothes through this factory, so she gave me the contact. I WhatsApp this person every day, and we keep in close contact, and now we've moved to another provider as well, another supplier, and I talk to them a lot as well. So we make different clothes at different places, 2 different places. But yeah, if you're looking for a supplier in China, I would go onto Alibaba. That's where most people find theirs, and go on there and just search for what you think you want, and then find a factory, have a conversation with them, get them to send you some samples. If you like the quality, then go forward with them. That's about as much as I can give you for that. Can I use your measurements? I don't have enough money to buy a clothes. So this comes from people always asking if they can use our measurements because they want to make their stuff in China. And because you make it in China, you can make your t-shirts customizable, and usually you have to send your own measurements. So people always ask, can we use your measurements of your t-shirts or your oversized hoodies? And I go, yeah, 100%. Like, no worries. Just grab one of our hoodies or one of our tees online and just measure it up and go hard. And they go, oh, like, I would love to do that, but I can't afford your clothes right now. And but I do want to use the measurements, and that's all good. I 100% am absolutely fine with that. If someone can't afford our clothes, they can't afford our clothes. Like, I do not care about that. What I do, but I don't give them my measurements, and this may go against what I talk about giving away your best knowledge for free. The reason I do this is because I promote giving away your knowledge, but I don't promote laziness. And a lot of the time I feel like it's laziness because you can sort of tell when someone is just not wanting to do it. Because everyone has a t-shirt at home that they like. Everyone, especially if you're trying to start a clothing business, you have a t-shirt at home that you really like. And it's not very hard to go down to the store and buy a $2 measuring tape and measure the lengths of that t-shirt and sending it away. The only thing it takes is time and effort. And for that, some people don't want to do it. And it doesn't even take that much time. It's not too hard, but it's just like tedious work that people don't want to do. So they look for the easy way out, such as doing the measurements. So like I appreciate how annoying those little tasks are, but I'm a massive advocate of enjoying the journey. So just do it and get it done. And it feels better in the long run. You know, when you made your own t-shirt and you see people wearing it, it feels that much better that you know you did it yourself. I don't know, that's just my opinion. So what software do you use? So for everything, we always get asked what software you use for different stuff, and it's nothing special. So we use iMovie to do our vlogs, but we're trying to get onto Final Cut Pro. So we had Final Cut Pro for a 30-day trial, and it was unreal. And so but it cost $500. So we're gonna buy it, but for now we're using iMovie. For podcasts we use GarageBand, and then for all type of editing types of things we use Adobe. So like Adobe for Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, Lightroom to edit our photos. So Lightroom to edit the photos, Photoshop to make the Photoshop sort of things with writing and stuff on it. Same with Illustrator. We actually use Illustrator to make our designs for our samples. So we create like blank canvases, and then we put our designs on it and we send it to our supplier. And then it also has like auditions. So it's like $25 a month, I think, and you get all that for that. So I think it's a good investment if you're trying to create a little bit better or different content. I would look at investing in that. So we use those, but we don't use the Adobe Audition for our podcast. We just use GarageBand, but apparently it's pretty good. Next question: can I be an ambassador? So people always ask if they can be ambassadors, and I try not to make it too personal, and I try to sort of just let people know, or if I haven't, I'm letting you know now. Ambassadorship is like another form of marketing for us. So we're giving away free clothes that we've paid for, or I paid for, and in return we're hoping to see more customers or sales or following come from that. So we're actually investing our money into that. So it's not personal if we don't choose you or we don't select you as an ambassador for us, because it's purely business based, not personal based. Don't get me wrong, the person has to be a really good person. If they're an asshole, then we're not going to pick them because it doesn't fit with our brand, it doesn't fit with our morals. So they do have to be a good person, but it doesn't come down to let's say, for example, a Super Rugby player who he plays Super Rugby, but so he's got, he's quite well known, but he's not an influencer as such. So he doesn't, people aren't influenced by his actions. we're probably not going to use him because of that very fact that we're trying to find people who influence other people, and that is purely a business-based thing, nothing to do with who we personally like or things like that. So to answer how can I be an ambassador, if you're an influencer or you have a really good following, it's just the way it is. Those people are more likely to get free clothes and ambassadorship than others, based on that. And sometimes it's just because they're good looking, and that's just the reality we live in. People are good looking, people are entertained by that, or people are attracted to people who are better looking than others. That's just the way it is, and sometimes you think it's unfair, but that's just the way it is sometimes. Is China way cheaper? No, it is not, especially at the start. Well, if you're thinking per piece, it's probably about the same at the start. So like what you pay to get something made here is maybe very similar to what you'd pay to get something made there, bar a few things such as like my Save the Elephants tee with a big print on it. That would be a little bit, that would be cheaper overseas than here. But you have to pay things such as you have to buy 100 of them or something, and it's in US dollars, and you're sending it to China, so you have to pay bank fees, things like that, and then you have to get it shipped here, and then you have to pay import tax. It all adds up. But if you're thinking per piece in the long run, it's going to be cheaper, and that's when you're making things such as 1,000 pieces, say, rather than 100 pieces, because when you're starting, you think 100 pieces is a lot here, but it's not in China. China's 100 is like their minimum. Some of them won't even take 100. So if you think of how much it would cost you to make 5 t-shirts here as opposed to 100, you think of that over in China, it is 100 tees as opposed to 1,000. So making 100 tees over there is like making 5 t-shirts here. Because like I've been into a printing store in New Zealand, and I've been like, oh, I want to make 100 tees, and they're like, whoa, okay, like cool, that'll be real cheap. Because 100 t-shirts is a lot here, but over there it's not. So then you have to factor in, so let's say for example right now COVID, shipping is insane because there's not many flights, and the basic supply and demand, supply is low but demand is very high at the moment, and therefore they are able to charge higher prices because people need it at the moment, and that's what's happening to us right now. So I'm going to use my auntie's numbers, and I hope she doesn't mind, but for her shipping, it costs her, she just got quoted for 35 cartons, 35 big boxes of clothes. It's costing her $8,000 US it was going to cost her to get that stuff here by plane. And you hear that, like that's like, off the top of my head, maybe 14,000 New Zealand dollars just to get the clothes here. Like you could fly their business class, fly back for the same price probably, and grab them. But that's just the way shipping is, and what we're trying to move into and cut costs. That's why it's not as cheap at the start. But what we're trying to get into is when you have enough money. So say you've bought clothes and they're here. When you have enough money to start ordering more clothes, and then you don't need them till this time, that's when you're starting to work really well, because that's where you want to get to. So we're ordering stuff because we don't have a lot of money. We're using all our money to buy stock, and then we're selling it all, and then we're getting this much money. Then we're using all that money to buy more stock, and then we're selling it all and getting this much money. When you get to a point which we're starting to get to now, is you can buy all the stock here and still have this much money that you can buy for the next collection. So let's say we're ordering summer clothes next month for the summer to come. That means we don't need our clothes here as quick, which means that helps us, because the only reason we get stuff air freighted is because we need it here straight away. We usually have pre-orders and stuff. People want their clothes, and we've got to get it here straight away. If that's not the case, and you're just getting your stuff here for summer, you can chuck it on a boat. And so, like I said, my auntie got quoted $8,000 US to get her stuff here by air freight. She's now put it on a boat, and it's cost her $600 US to get it here, but it's going to take an extra 2 to 3 weeks max. And that's where you need to be. So you need to be on the boats, not on the air freight. But to get there, you need to have a little bit of income, a little bit of cash flow, so you are able to do that. That's just where we're expanding to now. So to answer your question, is China way cheaper? Not at the start, but you pay for the quality, and you pay for the ability to customize your clothes, and you pay for, you get to make your own clothes as opposed to printing on blanks, where arguably a lot of young small clothing brands would do. My thoughts anyway. I get this question a lot too. Do you think you'll ever be as big as brands like lower in RPM, and when do you think you'll be as big as them? And my answer to that is, how long do you think it'll take to get there? And my answer to that is I'm in no rush. So I've sort of learnt, and listening to Gary Vee a lot, I mention him a lot, but listening to Gary Vee, he says that, like, young people, impatience will kill you. It'll ruin your chances of success. And it's true. We always want everything to happen right here and right now. Like when you're 20 or 21, he said, if you're talking about 6 months time, a year's time, he's like, even 3 years time, you're kidding yourself. He's like, you're setting yourself up for failure, because you should not be thinking then, you should be thinking for when you're 35 and when you're 40. That's the time you should be setting yourself up for. So I'm in no rush. All I know for a fact is that I'm going to put everything I can into this, and I will not lack in effort. So as fast as it grows, it grows. I'm not going to push it any further than that. I just know that I'm going to put everything I can into it and see what happens with it. Yes, I do want to be as big as them, and of course everyone wants to be the biggest, but it comes down to me, is what it comes down to for me is that I need to be the best I can today, and the best I can tomorrow, and the best I can the day after that, and I live in the present, and the future will look after itself. So to answer that question, I do not know if or when, but I know that I'm going to give everything that I can, and every little bit of knowledge that I get, that I'm trying to teach you, I'm going to implement into my business, and hopefully it becomes successful sooner rather than later, but who knows. So that's basically all the questions I got written down. We'll start doing this a little bit more, the old coffee on the couch. So thanks for tuning in, guys. If you guys can please screenshot, chuck it on your social media, let us know you're watching or listening, telling us that you like it. If you had any more questions that weren't answered, if people are sending in more questions, then I can answer them next time. But yeah, basically thank you for tuning in, guys. If you haven't copped anything from 138, check us out, www.138.co.nz. jump on and support. It would mean the world to us. Pretty tough times at the moment. Thanks again. Sweet. Later.